Hi, I'm Kili, also known as Kelly.
And I'm Feely, also known as Alex,
Welcome to our corner of the Shire,
where we will show you how to bring Middle Earth
into your daily life to keep you
a happy hobbit.
Welcome to this episode of Happy Hobbit. Today I'm going to show you how I make one of my favorite springtime meals, and that is a quiche, and we will call it Kili's quiche because it kind of has a nice ring to it. It's almost alliterative, you know, the K and the Q. They say if you have to explain your jokes, they're probably not funny. So anyway, why is this one of my favorite things to make in the spring, even though I'm wearing kind of an autumnal ensemble? Oh, you can't see my fox. I'll show you. I ironed that on. It's one of my favorite things to make in the spring because, as you know from our very first episode, over 10 years ago, we have chickens, and happy, healthy hens, of course, lay eggs. And in the spring, we have lots of eggs, and on some occasions, depending on how many hens we have, our egg production is higher than our egg consumption. So a wonderful way to use up eggs is not only pudding, which we did an episode on way back, but also a quiche. And so I'm going to give you some of the tips and tricks I've learned along the way, as well as how to do this in a faster way and also use some stuff that you can grow in your garden. So thank you so much for joining me, and let's get to it. You're gonna see me in the same outfit probably in 2 episodes because I'm attempting to film 2 episodes today. It's a big cooking / baking day for me. I will keep the identity of the subject matter of the second episode a secret. The careful-eyed viewer is invited to see if they can spot a hint as to what the next episode's going to be about by seeing what you can spy in the kitchen around me. But both these episodes are to provide my tips and tricks on how to make some of these baked goods easier. My first trick for Kili's quiche is to cheat. To use store-bought pastry crusts. Of course, it's not that terribly difficult to make your own pastry crust, especially if you use the food processor, which you know I have a tumultuous history with, but I prefer to just use store-bought ones because it makes this recipe a lot more doable in a short amount of time. Whether or not you're using homemade crust or crust that you've bought from the store like this, the first thing you need to do is prepare it for being baked. To prepare the pie crusts, you're going to want to let them unthaw to close to room temperature, at least till it's easy to prick a fork into them. And then go around the whole crust and just use a fork to make a bunch of different avenues for the air to escape as you pre-bake the crust, because if you don't, what can happen is the crust will bubble up and you'll get domes, and then those domes may crack, and like, trust me, I've had this happen before. Your egg mixture goes under the bubble, and then you get a really strange situation where the crust is like in the middle of, actually in the middle of the quiche. I like to take things a step further, again, based on previous experience, and I use pie weights. And sometimes I'm lazy and I just do this, but then that causes the problem of the weights not being distributed equally and there being room for some bubbles to form or some domes. So you actually do want to put them in some kind of an evenly spaced pattern. You can also use uncooked rice, or you can use beans, like dried beans. In fact, you can have like a whole container of them that you reuse time and time again. Well, that really, yeah, that was great there. You can have a container of them that you use time and time again for this purpose if you find yourself pre-baking crusts a lot, which is fairly easy to do once you get into the convenience of buying these pre-made frozen crusts, because you can then use it for custards or pies with pudding in them. Wow. I don't know how I managed to knot this up. But there's all kinds of different reasons you may want to pre-bake a pie crust, and again, the convenience, I'm saying the word convenience as I'm trying to get a knot out of the pie weights. The convenience really is, you know, really is nice. I don't know if pie weights come in different lengths, but this one's obviously not going to cover the entire 9-inch. Maybe if I can shift it a little. And it will create little dents. But look how nice that is. It's like a pie with chainmail. So you're going to cook that in the oven at 400 degrees for about 10 minutes. I'm going to do these one at a time because I only have one set of pie weights. Alright, let's have a look. Oh, okay. Well, this is a perfect example of that type of bubbling I was referring to. So it happened on the edges. I'm gonna prick the edges of the next one with a fork to see if I can't prevent that with the next one. I'm out in the garden and I'm a little bummed that my leeks haven't performed as well this year as they have other years. They didn't really size up to much, and they're already starting to bolt to go to flower, so I'm gonna go ahead and harvest them now and use them in a recipe. So as you can see, this little tip here, that's actually going to be a flower, but the leek itself is only about the width of my thumb. They can be really difficult. Oh, that one was not very difficult to harvest. I've had plenty of times where I had to use a trowel. But I will dice this up and use it in dinner. This one's better. Time to wash these up. Time to check on the second crust. Ooh, thankfully, pricking the edges really helped. There is a small crack in the crust, but that can be fixed. I can work with this. To prepare your leeks, as you can see I have them kind of clean, you're going to cut off your roots and put them in your compost. I have a compost bin and a worm bin for garden purposes, but we're also really lucky that our county is doing county-wide composting now, so we have a compost container we can put stuff like that into, and it helps all the local farms. Very Shire-like. Then you want to strip off the yucky looking bits. And with leeks, the tricky part about making sure they're clean is to check, see, look at that, areas like that, and look for hidden dirt. However, my concern with these particular leeks, because they started to go to flower, is that this center part here may be too tough. So I'm going to see how difficult it is to chop and decide from there if I'm going to use it. Okay, that's not bad. That's not too bad. So you want to use the white part of the leek and part of the green. Again, to save time, I'm just not even going to bother with anything by the leaves that might have extra dirt in it. That looks weird. This is a leek I bought yesterday at the Mental Delving farmer's market, and for size comparison, you can see how much bigger it is than one of the bigger leeks I just harvested. Again, you want to just cut off the tip and be aware that there could be dirt hiding in there. What I'm gonna do though is go like this, get rid of the greens, and actually try to split this in half. Then dice these up finely, and the reason I bought some leeks yesterday at the market was because I knew from past experience that when my leeks go to bolt, they can be very tough in the middle, and I would rather just not use them for this dish because you don't really want a tough, woody textured vegetable inside of a quiche. So this will add some supplemental leek, also organically grown, to our garden leek. And sometimes that's just how it is. Sometimes you can make a whole meal with something from your Hobbit garden. Other times you need to supplement it. So I'm just breaking these bits up a little bit with my hand. Oops, that one, we got a leek down. And the next step, there's a little bit of skin. Leek skin, not my skin. The next step is to saute them. Now I'm melting some butter to use to saute the leeks. I do have a bit of a surprise ingredient that I've never added before, and that is baby rainbow chard. So I grew this in my garden, and as you can see, the leaves are quite small. This was in a bed that wasn't receiving a lot of sunlight. I planted these in late autumn, and I have other rainbow chard plants that have broader leaves, but these ones were recently harvested so that I could get the bed ready for spring planting. It currently has some watermelon seedlings in it, but I wanted to use these up because they're really healthy and good for you, and they actually taste really good just plain. But I'm going to cut off the hard stems and saute them with the leeks. So when you do grow your own vegetables and you do have a small crop like this and you're left wondering, what do I do with it? And perhaps you're like me and you have a lot of mouths to feed. This is a great way that you can use what you have. You can incorporate it into another recipe that you're already making. So again, all I'm doing is just cutting off the tough bits of stalk that, well, this one's probably fine, but the ones that have tougher bits so that it doesn't add a super tough or chewy texture. You can leave them on if you wish. I probably would if it was just for me, but this quiche isn't just for me. I'm serving people who maybe have dental issues when thankfully I don't. And I'm actually going to give these stalks, I probably cut them up further and I will give them to our hens. And the cycle continues, then we'll have even yummier eggs. What a Hobbit homestead. Now that the butter is nice and hot, it's time to add the leeks. At this point, you also can feel free to flavor your vegetables so that they really start absorbing some complexity. So I'm just doing crushed ground pepper, black pepper, crushed ground. I'm grinding my own black pepper, and then I'm going to add a little bit of salt, except none's coming out of this shaker. That's okay, you know what? There's gonna be enough salt in this recipe. It doesn't need extra salt. Just gonna stir it up so that they cook somewhat evenly. And let them cook. The leeks are looking pretty well done, so I'm gonna add the chard and let it start cooking down. While the vegetables cook away, it's time to make the egg mixture. You'll need 4 eggs for the egg mixture. Oh boy, that one was unique. That looks like a chick hatched out of it. It looks like a smiley face. And then the recipe calls for 1.5 cups of heavy cream. I'm just using what I have on hand, which happens to be half and half. I've actually made this recipe before with milk, and it does make it a little less rich, but really it's not that noticeable. And a pinch of nutmeg. The final ingredient that you add to your egg mixture is thyme. Now you can either use dried thyme, in which case you'll use less of it, or you can use fresh thyme. I happen to be growing fresh thyme in my Hobbit garden, so let's go take a field trip and harvest some. So this is some lavender thyme, and I really like it because other than some varieties of thyme, it doesn't get super woody, so I grow this near the kitchen so that I can harvest it just for occasions such as this. Thyme is a spice that I can't help but think of as quintessentially Hobbit. It just smells so earthy and delicious and wonderful, and I think I developed the association back when I first got into Tolkien and went to visit my friend, and they cooked a family dinner, and it was a chicken pot pie, and her mom went out into the garden and harvested some fresh thyme to put in the pot pie. Perhaps I was called upon to help, I can't remember at this point, and it was just so enchanting to me. I felt like I was visiting hobbits in a hobbit hole, that they could go out into their garden and harvest some herbs to add to their supper, and that's just something that's always stayed with me, and it makes thyme remind me of hobbits, and just felt like such a magical experience. So this thyme just needs to be diced up finely to be added to the egg and cream. Oh, it smells amazing. Thyme is kind of like Rosemary's little sister. That looks pretty good. Be careful doing this. Kids at home, you don't want to accidentally cut yourself. But okay, I was gonna say sprinkle it in. Kind of chucked it / plopped it in. And then we're gonna mix it up. Stuck to my fingers. Time to use big whisk. Mix in, 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 mix in. I think I've just had a terrible realization. I thought that I remembered that this recipe made 2 pies, but I actually think I'm confused in remembering my pumpkin pie recipe for Thanksgiving, so I'm probably gonna have to do this all over again. That's okay though, I just won't film that part. There we go, it's mixed. Okay, this is also very well done. It's okay. Like I said, I'm a basic Hobbit. This is rustic cooking. This is a little well done. That's alright. We'll salvage it, I hope. So here are our pie crusts, and as you can see, this one does have a crack in the side. I've gone ahead and used a pie crust like that in the past, and what's happened, as you can imagine, is the egg slips through that crack and cooks underneath. So what I'm doing is I'm just mixing some flour and water into a paste, and I'm going to patch it up. All I'm really trying to do is create a seal so that the egg mixture can't get through. There we go. It's not pretty, but it's a repair job. These blobs just add character. So now I've got my very well cooked leeks and chard. And they're still sizzling, in fact. I'm going to just put them onto the bottom of the 2 crusts. Maybe my memory isn't faulty. Maybe this is all gonna be okay. This stuff is definitely going to be crispy, but we'll see how it turns out. Ugh. Just heard a loud crunch from a leaf. It's a unique experience for everyone. Now I'm going to add the egg mixture on top. It clearly wasn't enough for 2, but that's okay. I'm gonna add the cheese and just whip up another batch of the egg mixture. Thankfully, I was able to whip up another batch of the cream and egg mixture fairly quickly. So I'm gonna add that to my second quiche, or rather, pie crust. Boy, that's unique, all right. That's really unique. That's okay. We've got one that looks extra fancy because of the leaves. And then I'm going to add cheese, and I'm adding it last so that it doesn't all sink to the bottom. You can use any kind of cheese, and I am using a cheese that we just, again, happen to have on hand. In fact, I believe I'm stealing this from Feely and Daggerlad. But I don't think they'll care, because they'll have some of this too. So, I'm spreading it in generously. Boy, that one looks like a map. What part of Middle Earth is that a map of? If this is the ocean and that's the land, or vice versa? Go. And now they go in the oven. Both quiches are now out of the oven and they look pretty good, so I'll let you see them. This one turned out the most picture perfect. This one is, you know, it's just kind of rustic. I hope you've enjoyed watching me stumble my way through trying to do probably too much at once, and that you're inspired to try your own hand at perhaps growing some of your own food and trying some of these recipes where you can use the odd little bits and pieces and amounts that you have managed to grow in your Hobbit garden in a delicious home-cooked meal. Thank you so much for watching. While the vegetables are cooking, it's time to make the eggs mixture. To make the eggs... I'm talking to the camera, it's okay. Hi, pumpkin. Go for it. Hope it's cooked. It's got like a cheesy crust.
She has a pizza like that, great big square cubes, and imagine those next ones.
Yeah, where's this?